Every night at 2:43 a.m., I heard a slow, scratching sound beneath my bed, as if fingernails were gently dragging across wood. Not the floor next to it, directly underneath. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I just moved into a cheap basement apartment in an old duplex on the edge of Hastings. It was quiet, semi-suburban, and I liked the dim coziness of it. But within the first week, I started waking up at the same exact time, every single night. And that sound, that soft, deliberate scraping beneath me, started to feel too real to ignore. By the second week, I started recording it on my phone. Nothing ever played back, just silence and the occasional creak of the ceiling above. One morning, I brought it up to my landlord, Greg, this awkward guy in his 50s who lived upstairs with his mom. I told him, I think something's wrong with the floorboards. Maybe rodents? He just gave this half laugh and said, "Old pipes. Trust me, this place groans like a dying man in winter." But there was no plumbing directly under my bedroom. I checked the blueprints. The space beneath me was supposed to be crawl space, empty. That night, I pushed my bed aside and placed a thick yoga mat over the exact spot I kept hearing the sound. I lay on my stomach, ear pressed to the floor. At 2:43 a.m., I heard it again. But this time, it wasn't just scratching. It was breathing. Faint, wheezing, human breathing coming from beneath the floorboards, shallow, restrained, like someone trying to stay quiet. I jolted back, heart pounding, and immediately flipped the lights on. The sound stopped instantly. I even knocked on the floor and shouted, "Hello?" Nothing. By morning, I was doubting myself again. I hadn't slept and my brain felt foggy. I knocked on Greg's door. He didn't answer, but I noticed his curtain shift upstairs, just a little, like someone was watching me. A few days later, something even more unsettling happened. I found a spoon on my counter, a scratched, dented metal spoon, not one of mine. I only own plastic cutlery because I'm cheap and lazy and hate doing dishes. But this spoon was filthy, black grime crusted along the handle. I threw it out immediately, but it kept eating at me. Then, 2 nights later, I woke up to find my bedroom closet open, just an inch, just enough to notice. I never leave it open. My habit is to shut it all the way until I hear the latch click. That's when the dread truly started to settle in. I called a friend, Micah, and half-jokingly told him I thought my landlord was living under my floor. He laughed, said I was being paranoid, but that night, I slept with the lights on. I stuffed a towel under the closet door and dragged my dresser in front of it. Still at 2:43 a.m., I heard the scratching, except now it was faster, desperate, like whoever was under there was angry they couldn't get through. The next morning, I snapped. I knocked on Greg's door harder than ever. When he opened it, he looked tired, sweaty, like he'd just woken up even though it was 11 a.m. "Greg," I said, trying to stay calm, "there's something under my apartment. I heard breathing. I'm not crazy. There's someone living beneath my floor." His eyes twitched. His lip curled like he was about to smile, but he didn't. Just said, "This place is from 1946. The foundation's a mess. Don't let your mind play tricks." I pushed him. "I need to see the crawl space. I need to see it myself." That's when he said something that chilled me. "There's no access anymore," he said. "We sealed it up years ago." "Then unseal it." He just shook his head and muttered, "You're not the first tenant who's had trouble sleeping down there." Not the first. That night, I pulled the rug away from the corner of my room and started banging on the floor with a hammer. It was thin. I could feel the hollow space beneath. I pried up one board. It splintered easily. Dust and stale air wafted out. I pulled a flashlight from my drawer, dropped to my stomach, and peered in. There was a void, a crawl space, maybe 3 feet tall, dirt floor. It stretched under the whole apartment. What really made me gasp wasn't the size, it was the nest. A filthy pile of tattered clothes, food wrappers, a rusted shopping cart, and a mattress, crumpled in the corner like someone had been sleeping there. There was a tin plate, a comb, a flashlight with dead batteries. Someone had been living right beneath me. I backed away, heart thudding so loud I could barely hear anything else. Then, just before I stood up, I saw a small handprint in the dust. Small, but adult-sized. Greasy, clear, fresh. I left the floor open and didn't sleep that night. At 7 a.m., I called the cops. They came, searched the crawl space, but whoever had been living there, if they were still there, was gone. All they found was the debris and, weirdly, a trapdoor in the far end of the space that led into a chamber under the main stairwell. It wasn't listed in the blueprints. The cops said it looked like someone had broken it open from the inside. I begged them to check on Greg. They did. Nothing suspicious. He even let them walk through his place. But I noticed his mother never came out of the back room. I still don't know if she even exists. The officers told me it was likely a squatter, someone Greg didn't know about. Said it happens in old buildings sometimes. But then one of them, the younger cop, pulled me aside and quietly said, "If you hear anything again, call us directly. Not 911. Here." He gave me his card. I asked why. He said, "Because we've had calls about that house before." I moved out within 2 days, packed everything in my car and stayed with Micah. But the worst part, the night before I left, I decided to try and sleep just one last time in my own bed. I figured the police had cleared it. I was safe. But at exactly 2:43 a.m., I heard it. Not scratching, not breathing, a whisper, close. Right under the floorboards. "Don't leave me here." I screamed, I ran, I didn't look back. 3 months later, I found a listing for the same basement unit. New photos, new paint, same rent. But what made my stomach drop was the last photo, the bedroom. And in the corner of that photo, barely visible in the shadows, was a face. Pale, wide-eyed, pressed to the gap between the floorboards and the wall, smiling, watching. The first note appeared on our doormat 3 nights after we moved in. No envelope, no name, just a single torn scrap of yellow paper with 5 words written in tiny block letters. "You laugh too loud at night." We lived on the 6th floor in 6B, a corner unit. My boyfriend Aaron brushed it off, thought it was a joke. I didn't laugh it off as easily. We'd been watching a sitcom on our laptop with headphones, and we had been laughing, but not loud enough for anyone to hear through concrete walls. We chalked it up to a cranky neighbor and forgot about it, until the second note came. This time, it was slipped through the mail slot. Same paper, same tiny block letters. Why does he leave at 8:13 every morning? Where does he go? Aaron did leave at 8:13, almost every morning, to catch the train. We'd only been there for a week, and this stranger already knew our exact routine. He tried to rationalize it, said maybe someone down the hall noticed, maybe someone was just messing with us. But I didn't like the phrasing, "He leaves, not you." It meant someone was watching us separately, closely, observing patterns. I asked the building manager if the place had any history. He just gave a half smile and said, "Old building, lots of characters." When I pressed him, he said, "If you're worried about 6C, don't be. He keeps to himself." We hadn't even mentioned 6C. That's when I realized our unit, 6B, shared a wall with apartment 6C, and I had never seen the door open, not once. No deliveries, no packages, no lights off, just a low constant hum behind that thin wall, like static. A white noise machine, maybe. I knocked on the door the next day. No answer. I pressed my ear to it. Nothing. That night, Aaron and I left to grab food down the block. When we came back, there was a third note wedged into the crack of our door. No tape, just jammed there. "Your black shirt makes you look sick. You look better in green." I hadn't worn a green shirt since we'd moved in. That meant this person had seen me before we moved. I suddenly realized our bathroom window, narrow, dusty, high up on the wall, faced directly into the apartment across the alley. 6C's window. The next morning, I got up early, stood by the peephole, waited. I was determined to catch whoever was leaving the notes. For an hour, I stood silently, just watching. Nothing. Then around 9:10, the hallway light flickered, and I heard something, a soft creak like a door closing slowly. I leaned to the peephole and saw that 6C's door, which had always looked bolted shut, was ajar, just barely. A sliver. I stepped out, heart pounding, and slowly walked over. "Hello?" I said, gently knocking. The door creaked open an inch. The inside was dark. "Is someone there?" No answer. I should have walked away, but curiosity outweighed caution. I nudged the door open further, just a foot, enough to peek inside. The first thing I noticed was the walls. Every inch of them was covered in photos, black and white, color, blurry phone shots, surveillance-style stills, taped, pinned, even stapled in rows. And in the center of it all were we. Photos of me and Aaron, in our apartment, on the balcony, on the street, in the elevator. Some of them from angles that meant they were taken from inside our unit. I felt bile rise in my throat. Suddenly a noise came from deeper inside, a shuffle, like someone crawling across carpet. I slammed the door shut and sprinted back to our apartment. Locked it. Double locked it. Aaron came home 20 minutes later. I was trembling, rambling, trying to explain. He called the cops. By the time they arrived and pried open the door to 6C, it was empty in a wrong way. No furniture, no lights, just walls stained yellow with age and tack marks where the photos had been. But every single one was gone. Every trace of what I'd seen was erased. The cops thought I made it up. They were polite but didn't file a report, said maybe I saw decorations or something and panicked. Aaron believed me, but he also admitted it didn't make sense. "Maybe he moved out right after you saw it?" I shook my head. "Then where did he go?" "The building only has one stairwell. I would have seen him." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time the pipes clicked, I jumped. Every shadow on the ceiling made my skin crawl. And then, at 3:11 a.m., I heard something. The low click of our front door unlocking. We had locked it. I checked it twice. I froze in bed. Aaron didn't stir. I reached for my phone slowly, not taking my eyes off the bedroom door. I texted Aaron instead of speaking. "Wake up, someone's in the apt." He blinked awake, saw the text, and sat bolt upright. The sound of soft footsteps in the living room, not heavy, more like someone barefoot. Aaron whispered, "We need to run," but I couldn't move. I was so afraid the floorboards would creak. Then we heard a voice, a whisper, right outside our door. "You moved the couch." It wasn't angry. It wasn't even loud. It was said with disappointment. Aaron lunged, threw the bedroom door open, and turned on the light. No one was there. We searched every inch. The door was still locked, chains still in place, windows latched. But on our kitchen counter was a Polaroid, a fresh one, the kind that still smelled like chemicals. It showed the two of us sleeping in bed, taken from the angle of our closet. The next day, Aaron took off work and we searched the entire apartment. Inside the HVAC vents, behind the fridge, under the bathtub. It was while pulling out the panel behind the coat closet that he found it. A hole, small, rectangular, cut clean through the wall. It connected directly to apartment 6C, a secret panel. Aaron covered it immediately with plywood and nails. We debated moving, but rent was cheap, and Aaron thought it might just be over now, that whoever it was had left. It wasn't over. The notes returned. "Why did you block the hole? That was my window. It's darker now." The worst one came 2 days later. It simply said, "I liked you better before you moved in." That same night, Aaron left for a late shift. Around 1:45 a.m., I was brushing my teeth, staring at the fogged-up bathroom mirror. I froze. In the condensation, there were words. Tiny, narrow handwriting traced into the glass from inside the mirror, like it had been before and only showed now that the mirror fogged up. "Don't turn around." My breath stopped. I spun, heart in my throat. Nothing there. But in the window, high up, barely within view, I saw a reflection, a figure, standing on the fire escape, watching. I screamed and dialed Aaron, then the police. When they came, they found muddy footprints on the fire escape and a piece of twine tied to our window lock. A primitive tool. It had been opened from outside. The cops finally took it seriously. They searched 6C again. This time, they brought dogs. What they found made the news, though our names were never included. Beneath the floorboards of 6C, they discovered a hidden compartment filled with old tapes. VHS. Dozens of them, labeled with names, Unit 3A, Unit 4B, 6B. Each tape was surveillance, uncut footage of people in their own apartments, living, undressing, eating, sleeping, recorded from holes drilled in walls, vents, mirrors. The man who lived there, if it was just one man, had been watching everyone for years. But they never found him. The place had no rental history, no ID. The landlord swore it had been vacant for years. He thought it was just storage, said he lost the keys ages ago. We moved out that weekend. Sometimes I still wonder how many other buildings he watched, or if he's still watching. But the part that haunts me most is what the last note said, the one we found taped to the back of our bedroom mirror right before we left. You made it boring when you noticed. Every night at 3:17 a.m., someone knocked on my front door. 3 soft, polite knocks, always the same rhythm, always the same time. And every night, when I checked the security footage, there was no one there. I live in a quiet cul-de-sac in a sleepy suburb near Hastings. Moved here alone after the divorce. Just me and my dog, Wally. I liked the peace, the routine. Neighbors waved but kept to themselves. Most were retirees or young families. I work remote, don't party, barely make noise. The knocking started on a Tuesday in early spring, 3:17 a.m. Knock, knock, knock. I sat up in bed, thinking I imagined it. Wally heard it too, lifted his head, ears perked, but didn't bark. I checked the peephole, no one. Opened the door a crack, still nothing. Not a car, not a breeze. Thought maybe it was a dream. Until the next night, same time, same rhythm. I installed a camera the following day. Basic motion detection, night vision, time-stamped recording. Next night, 3:17 a.m. Knock, knock, knock. I jumped up, heart hammering, watched the live feed from my phone. Nothing. But I heard it. Clear as day. 3 knocks. Like someone was inches away on the other side of the door. I replayed the footage. No figure. No motion. Not even the door vibrating. I started leaving the porch light on, thinking maybe that would deter whoever or whatever was doing it. It didn't. After the 4th night, I started asking neighbors. Most shrugged it off. Prank kids, someone said. Another suggested dreams feel real in the middle of the night. But one neighbor, Tom, mid-60s, lived across the street in a tan 1-story, didn't answer the door. He just looked at me through the side window. I waved. He blinked, then closed the curtain. I knocked again. Nothing. I let it go. That weekend, I stayed up late, sitting on my couch in the dark. I wanted to see it. I wanted to hear the knocking with my own ears while fully awake. At exactly 3:17 a.m., I heard it again. Knock, knock. But this time, Wally growled, deep, low, with his hackles raised. He walked slowly to the door, nose to the gap beneath it, tail down. Then he backed away, slowly, whining. I grabbed the bat I kept behind the couch, turned on the porch light, and yanked the door open. No one. I stepped outside barefoot. Cold night air hit me. The street was still, silent. But across the street, Tom's house, the porch light flicked on. The door creaked open a few inches, and Tom was standing there, staring at me. I called over. Hey, you hear that knocking? He didn't answer, just tilted his head. I asked again. Then he stepped out onto his porch, barefoot like me. He gave this half smile, creepy, thin, and said, I just wanted to see if you'd open it this time. The way he said it made me freeze, like it was rehearsed. I didn't respond, just went inside and locked the door. The next morning, I tried to convince myself I misheard him. Maybe he was talking about something else. Maybe he was just weird. But I couldn't shake the way he stared, how he waited until I opened my door. The following night, 3:17 came and went, with no knocking. I felt a mix of relief and unease, like something paused, but hadn't ended. 2 nights later, I came home late from a friend's. Wally was acting odd, restless, pacing from door to window. I checked the porch camera and saw something new. A still frame from 3:17 a.m. the night before. A shadow. Just one frame. Barely visible, but unmistakably the shape of a man, standing right at my door, and then gone. I zoomed in. It was grainy, no face, but it was there. After nights of nothing, something had finally registered. Something that wanted to not be seen. I tried to report it to the police. They humored me, took a statement, but said it was likely just a trespasser. No crime, no break-in, no face, the officer said. We'll do extra patrols. I didn't sleep that night. At 3:17, no knock, but the next morning I found something stuck in the gap between my front door and the frame, a yellow sticky note. In neat, careful handwriting, you shouldn't have opened it. That same day, I saw Tom again. He was standing in his driveway, watering his bushes with a garden hose that wasn't turned on. The hose was limp, dry. He was just staring at the plants, misting them with nothing. When I drove by, he smiled at me and waved. I didn't wave back. That night, I moved a chair into the hallway and sat in front of the door, bat across my lap. Wally lay at my feet, ears twitching. I watched the peephole, watched the clock tick. 3:17 a.m. Knock, knock, knock. Wally growled. I stood holding the bat, looked through the peephole. Nothing. I waited 10 seconds. Then, from the back door, knock, knock, knock. I turned. That door had no porch, no steps, just a drop into my fenced backyard. No one should be there. I sprinted to the back, looked out the small window. Nothing. Checked the lock, still bolted. Then I remembered, I hadn't checked the garage door. I crept through the kitchen and into the garage, turned on the light. It was open, only a few inches, but definitely open. I dropped the bat and slammed it shut, locked it, deadbolt, every lock I had. Then I found another sticky note. This one stuck to the inside of my kitchen window, facing in. You keep closing all the doors. The next morning, I finally snapped. I walked straight to Tom's house, banged on the door. He didn't answer. So I went to the window where I'd seen him before, and this time the curtain was gone, replaced with newspaper, taped sloppily from the inside. No one answered, but I heard movement, floorboards creaking, a faint chuckle. Then silence. I went home, called the police again, told them about the notes, the open garage, the camera glitch. They said they'd follow up, but I could tell they didn't care. So that night, I stayed at a motel. Wally and I left at 7 p.m. I made sure every door was locked, every window shut, lights on. When I came back the next morning, the front door was open, not broken, not forced, just standing open. Inside, the house was cold, still. Wally wouldn't go in. Everything looked untouched. Until I reached the hallway. On the floor, spelled out in tiny pebbles, was, "Why'd you leave me alone?" I checked the footage. Nothing. I called a locksmith, had every lock replaced, cameras upgraded, motion lights installed. I even bought one of those floor jammers to brace the doors from inside. But that night, at exactly 3:17 a.m., the power went out. The cameras blinked off. The house went pitch black. And I heard the knocking. Not at the front, not the back, but the bedroom closet. Knock, knock, knock. Wally lost his mind, barking, growling, lunging at the door. I grabbed a flashlight and flung it open. Nothing there. But inside, taped to the wall, was a photo. One I didn't take. It showed me, sleeping, in bed. From the angle inside the closet, I didn't sleep after that. I didn't even stay. I packed a bag and left. Wally and I stayed at another motel. I contacted the police again. They searched the house. Still no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints. But the closet was empty. I sold the place within a month. Took a huge loss. Didn't care. I saw Tom one last time, the day I was loading the moving truck. He was sitting on his porch, hands in his lap, smiling. He called out, "Moving already?" I didn't respond. He stood up slowly, walked to the edge of his lawn and said, "I just wanted to see if you'd open it." Then he laughed. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet, satisfied laugh, like the punchline to a long, private joke. I haven't seen him since. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, especially if I've stayed up too late, I think I hear it again. Just a faint echo in the back of my head. Knock, knock, knock. I first heard the whispering on my third night there. It was just past 2 a.m., and I'd been scrolling mindlessly in bed when I caught a sound under the hum of my fan. Faint, breathy, like someone murmuring just beside me. But when I muted everything and held my breath, it stopped. The wall beside my bed, cheap drywall over God knows what, stood still and quiet. I told myself it was an old building, probably pipes or settling, but that night I didn't sleep. The place was a low-rent student housing building about 15 minutes from my university. 5 floors, narrow hallways, and paper-thin walls. I'd taken the room because it was cheap and close. That was all that mattered. The landlord, an older woman named Miss Vern, seemed a little scattered. When she gave me the keys, she forgot my room number and had to check the clipboard twice. Said my unit, 3B, used to be storage, but they'd opened it back up recently due to demand. I didn't think much of that at the time. By the end of the week, I'd heard the whispering 3 more times, always late, between 2 and 4 a.m., always faint, like someone breathing words just on the other side of the wall. One night, I got up and pressed my ear against it. There was a pause, then a slow rustling, like fabric being dragged over wood. Then a voice, low, male, and hoarse. She knows. I staggered back, stood there in the dark, heart hammering. Then silence. I tried to ask around, but my floor was mostly empty. A few doors down was a guy named Andrew who smoked outside most nights. When I asked if he'd heard anything weird through the walls, he hesitated. Then said, they're thin. You'll hear things. Just ignore it. But the way he said it, like he wanted me to ignore it, made me more paranoid. I began noticing small things. My toothpaste was uncapped when I swore I hadn't used it. The drawers in my dresser were slightly open in the morning. My phone alarm didn't go off one day. The volume had been turned down to 0. I set up a simple test. Before bed, I placed a glass of water right at the edge of my nightstand and a line of baby powder along the windowsill. Then I wedged a thin piece of cardboard between my closet doors, enough that it would fall if they were opened. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The whispering came again, clearer this time. She sees now. Then a dull knock from inside the wall. Not a pipe, not the building settling. Knuckles on drywall. I didn't move. I stayed frozen until morning. The water glass was empty. The baby powder had a smudge, like a finger had dragged through it. The cardboard had fallen. I packed a bag and left for class early, but I couldn't focus. The paranoia crawled under my skin like ants. I kept checking my phone, checking my backpack, checking if anyone was watching me. By the time I got back that afternoon, I'd made a decision. I was going to knock on the wall myself. At exactly 3 a.m., I did. 3 soft knocks. Then I leaned in. Nothing. Then a response. 3 knocks back, slowly, and a whisper, "Come see." The next day, I searched the hallway. I pressed along the wall of my room, knocked along the baseboards, checked behind the bathroom cabinet, and that's when I found it. A small square panel behind the sink, painted over but with just enough give to pry loose with a butter knife. Behind it was a dark hole, a crawl space. The air that drifted out was cold and dry, thick with dust. I shined a flashlight inside. The space ran along the wall between units, just wide enough to crawl through. And I swear I saw something pull back. I called the landlord that night, told her I found a crawl space in my bathroom and heard someone in the walls. Miss Vern sighed and said, "Oh, that thing again." I stopped. "Again? What do you mean?" She cleared her throat. "It's not dangerous. The building's just old. Some units used to be connected. They sealed most of them. People hear things. Let me guess, whispers?" I didn't answer. She continued, "I've owned this place 20 years. Every few years, someone swears there's someone in the walls. It's always the 3rd floor. Do you know why?" Another pause. "No, I just tell them not to go in there." Then she hung up. I didn't sleep again that night. Around 3 a.m., I taped my phone's flashlight to my chest, put on gloves, and crawled into the hole. The crawl space was tight, barely wider than my shoulders. The walls were old wood and metal beams, some parts exposed, others covered in flaking insulation. Dust clung to my face. I inched forward, hearing every movement echo. The whispering returned. Closer now. Not voices, but breathing. Deep, slow, measured, like someone lying on their stomach right next to me. After about 10 feet, I saw another vent cover facing into another apartment. I peeked through. An empty room. Must have been 3C, but the bed was made untouched. Dust thick on the desk, no signs of life. I kept crawling. The passage curved slightly. Another vent. I peered through and froze. It was my room. But I was still inside the crawl space. I looked around in panic. I'd taken the wrong turn. But then, movement. Something in my room. A figure stood by my bed, tall, gaunt, wearing dark clothes. I couldn't see their face, but they leaned down toward my pillow and sniffed it. Long, slow inhales. Then they turned their heads sharply, like they heard me watching. I scrambled backward through the tunnel, heart slamming. Hands scraped raw against wood. My light flickered. I made it back to the bathroom and slammed the panel shut. I went to the police the next morning, filed a report, showed them the crawl space. When they searched the crawl space, they found discarded food wrappers, a flashlight, and a sleeping bag, but no one inside. They questioned Miss Byrne. She claimed she knew nothing. The unit I saw, 3B, had apparently been vacant for years, according to their records. I begged to break my lease. She let me, didn't even argue. Before I left for good, I asked Andrew, the smoker guy, what he knew. I caught him outside as I loaded my last box into my car. He looked tired, eyes sunken. There's always someone in the walls, he said. Not always the same person, but someone always ends up there. I didn't understand. What do you mean? He shrugged. The tunnel pulls them in. They start watching, and then they don't leave. Then he looked at me. You went in, didn't you? I didn't answer. He gave a sad smile. Yeah, you'll feel it soon. That itch, the need to see what they're doing, who's sleeping, who's alone. You'll tell yourself it's just curiosity at first. Then he turned and walked inside. I moved across the city, got a new apartment, different neighborhood, different building. Nothing shared. But some nights when it's late and quiet, I swear I can still hear whispering. And sometimes I still dream about the tunnel. And in the dreams, I'm always crawling back in.